How close do you have to be to care? When the camera in a movie or TV show spends most of the time filming subjects in wide or long shots, we say that the filmmaking has a detached style. The distance from the subject distances us from the subject. While it's certainly possible to bring out intense emotion and identification from wider shots, something truly unique can happen when the camera goes in close. Film theorist Bella Balaz says this about the close-up. Good close-ups radiate a tender human attitude in the contemplation of hidden things, a delicate solicitude, a gentle bending over the intimacies of life in the miniature, a warm sensibility. Good close-ups are lyrical. It is the heart, not the eye, that has perceived them. Solicitude, the quality of caring about other people's comfort, safety, and how they feel. The close-up is a way of getting us to care about the characters. There's always so much going on a person's face, but it can be hard to see if you're not close enough. The emotions that play out on the face say so much with so little movement. While watching season 2 of The Bear, I was often struck by the tenderness of a lot of the close-ups. Sometimes the camera would get so close that someone's face would fill the whole screen. No matter how close the camera got, the close-ups were always flattering, which I think says something about how much the team behind The Bear cares about the characters. I definitely felt the warm sensibility that Balaz talks about. After finishing season 2, I felt like I truly knew and cared about the characters in a way that I didn't after watching season 1. This wasn't just because I had spent more time with them. Season 2 explores what it truly means to care for other people, and the kind of closest we see really heighten this theme. How close do you have to be to care? Pretty close, it seems. To care about someone's comfort, safety, and well-being involves listening to what they have to say. The best way to show someone you're listening is to face them. Film theorist Marianne Doan says this about the face. The face is that bodily part not accessible to the subject's own gaze, or accessible only as a virtual image in a mirror. And simultaneously, it is the sight that is seen and read by the other, hence its overrepresentation as the instance of subjectivity. If we can only see our own face through a mirror, then something happens when we look at someone else's face. Film theorists Elsasser and Hagener say this about looking in the mirror. A look into the mirror necessitates a confrontation with one's own face as the window to one's own interior self. Yet this look at oneself in the mirror is also a look from outside. A look that no longer belongs to me, that judges or forgives me, criticizes or flatters me, but at any rate has become the look of another. In a way, we see ourselves reflected in the face of another. We partly judge ourselves by how other people see us, so other people's expressions can have an effect on us. If the face reflected back at you is one that is empathetic and cares about your well-being, then it's easier to think of yourself as someone that deserves empathy and care. Clara does this for Carmi. She tries to understand Carmi by empathizing with him. She sees that he's hurting and wants to help him. Claire's face often fills the screen in close-up, but usually as a mirror to Carmi in close-up. There is an unreal quality to the close-ups of Claire, especially when her face fills the screen. If Claire didn't interact with other characters on the show, I wouldn't think that she's real. It feels like Carmi's interactions with Claire are from his point of view and have this unreal quality because he can't quite believe how happy the relationship makes him. Claire's face fills the screen because Carmi finds the relationship fulfilling, but also overwhelming. Claire as a character is reflective in the sense that she's a mirror that allows Carmi to reflect on the past and present. This means that Claire by herself is admittedly not a character with a lot of depth. We do know that Claire has always been an empathetic person who wants to understand how others are feeling. We also know that Claire is doing a residency in an emergency ward.
I used to work for this guy who used to say that taking care of people at the highest level was like working at a hospital, you know? Like, it was like
Okay,
medical.
that's a little much.
I'm just saying, I think that's why restaurants and hospitals use the same word, hospitality.
In both these industries, every second counts. I want to go back to the Bella Blast quote to highlight the word solicitude again. I've used the Cambridge Dictionary definition, but in other definitions the word anxiety comes up. I think this is interesting because the bear as a show is no stranger to anxiety. This idea of anxiously caring about someone else's well-being fits well with a saying that keeps popping up throughout season 2. Every second counts. At first, this saying simply means that Carmi, Sydney, and the others don't have a lot of time to reopen the restaurant, so they must use the time wisely. As the season goes on, however, we see that there are other meanings to this phrase. One meaning that fits with the idea of anxious care is that every second counts because the customers need to get their food in a timely manner. The chefs and servers must work to make the customer's experience as comfortable as possible. Waiting creates discomfort. You could say that this is simply a business-oriented outlook and care has nothing to do with it. If the customers have a bad experience, then they could leave bad reviews, which could be bad for business. This is certainly part of it, but I think that the business-oriented outlook can be countered with another meaning of the phrase. Every second counts could also mean that every second making the food is valuable. It is not a waste of time to spend a bit of extra time making the food as good as it can be.
It's just a nice little fun detail, so when the diners see it, they know that someone spent a lot of time on their dish. I think time spent doing this is time well spent.
Every second counts for something. From this point of view, I think that the chefs care about the customer experience in a genuine way. Why else would they go to all that trouble? Food is just fuel after all. What is the need for all this extra work if someone is just going to shove it in their mouth? I think that all this extra care happens because food is fuel. The chefs are making things that allow people to go on living for just a bit longer. They realize this responsibility and they take it seriously. Close-ups are a good tool to use for both the meanings of every second counts. They are great for looking at details, whether they are the expressions on a face or other things. When you're anxious about something, you tend to hyper-focus on small details. When you spend extra time making something the best it can be, you focus on the details to see what you can add to make it better. We see attention to detail when Marcus travels to learn more about making desserts. The desserts are often so small that Marcus has to use tweezers and the camera has to go in close to see what he's doing. The camera has to go in so close that the dessert will be in focus, but not the plate that it's on. There's no other way to show how much care goes into making these dishes. Every second counts. When you spend all that time carefully arranging the dish, rather than just slapping the food on the plate, the person eating the food will appreciate it. They'll see that you care. Close-ups encourage solicitude, and with solicitude comes anxiety. Most of the strongest close-ups are of Sydney's face. Anxiety is a part of Sydney's life because of past failures, but also because of potential failures in the future. She worries that the food won't be good enough because she takes cooking seriously as a craft. Let's look at when Sydney is searching for inspiration. When Sydney wanders Chicago trying to come up with new dishes, we are treated to some montages. The montages are made up mostly of close-ups, with some wider shots of the city and of the inside of different restaurants. There are two main types of close-ups at work here. There are the close-ups that show Sydney's face and the food in physical space, and then there are the more abstract close-ups that aren't tied to the physical world. What's important here is that the close-ups are doing the heavy lifting. Sydney knows that in order to be inspired, she has to be open to the details around her.
No, I think at a certain stage it becomes less about skill and it's more about being open.
Open?
Yeah, to the world, to yourself, to other people. You know, most of the incredible things I've eaten haven't been because the skill level is exceptionally high or there's loads of mad, fancy techniques. It's because it's been really inspired.
Close-ups are the best way to show this. The relation between the two types of close-ups shows the process of inspiration. The close-ups of Sydney's face get so close that they focus on her eyes or on her mouth. The more abstract close-ups show a plate that doesn't seem to be anywhere in physical space. The plate is empty at first, but then different ingredients keep appearing and disappearing on it. Close-ups of Sydney's eyes and mouth are connected to the abstract plate. Sydney's eyes often have a faraway look, like she's searching for something. What she's searching for is not something in front of her. Not yet, anyway. As Sydney travels around Chicago tasting different dishes, ideas about her own dish begin to form in her mind. Sydney and others spending all their time making sure that the food is the best that it can be shows how much they care about what they do. They care about cooking as a craft, but they also care about giving people the best experience possible. By bringing the camera close in the way that it does, the bear gets us to care about the characters. When their faces take up the whole screen and we see their expressions play out, we read into what they're thinking and feeling. We come to care about what they're thinking and feeling. We care that they care. When you're this close, it's hard not to.